Afternoon, property entrepreneurs. So quick video. This is just a quick video to fire things up. We're obviously, the Bank of England have said that we're facing the worst recession in 300 years. We look at the GDP figures, we're down over 25%. Unemployment is looking like, once furlough comes to an end, obviously industries have been hit, they've been suspended. It's looking like unemployment could go up to exceed 10%, which would be like the highest levels in history. There's a lot of challenge, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of change happening in the economy. When I say that this is the best time in history for entrepreneurs and potentially an entrepreneur's playground, I'm not being desensitive to all of the issues that are happening. So we're in exactly the same boat. We had lockdown, we had challenges with our businesses, we had lettings across our whole portfolio of letting agencies across the UK locked down for 12 weeks. We had developments, investors for developments fall over. We had leases lined up for our developments that just fell through. We had sites that we had to keep going with social distancing and limited materials. We've had exactly the same challenges as many of you will have experienced. And I do appreciate there's other sectors that will be harder hit, like hospitality, restaurants, the high street, retail. There's a lot of impact and a lot of damage going to be done. However, more opportunities are created in a recession than any other time. And a recession is basically an entrepreneur's playground. I've built more businesses in recessions than at any other period. The opportunities are far more readily available. The growth trajectory can be a lot quicker. The levels of competition are a lot lower. And the reasons for this, there's a few main elements to this. I'm going to take you through this over the coming weeks. A few key things to pick out immediately is, so success and failure are very predictable. And for the last 12 weeks, the reason that I haven't been on here and I haven't been hugely live is I've been behind the scenes helping our 100 property entrepreneurs through lockdown. And we created a war room. So we have 100 clients on our program. Obviously, all of those got closed down with the hospitality sector. And we went from 3 workshops a month to 3 workshops a week. And what I did there was I guided our property entrepreneurs, many of them you'll know, every step of the way, every week to what was going to happen. And at the beginning of this, before lockdown even happened, I said, right, don't panic, don't worry, this is what's going to happen. And over the period of a week, I pretty much drafted a model, explained what I thought was going to happen, and mapped out a curve as to this is what I think will happen over the next 12 weeks. 12 weeks on, we got to the end, and give or take a week, pretty much everything that we predicted has come true. Now we're switching gears and moving into the recovery phase. There's 3 phases to this. There's the dark period where we had no idea what was happening. We predicted that, we guided our entrepreneurs through it. We've come out the other end. We've all come out the other end ready to move forward. The dusk period where we are now, where lockdown's being lifted, we're starting to understand what is the actual impact to these economies. So what is the impact on the property market? What is the impact to hospitality? What is the actual impact to GDP? What is the actual impact to unemployment? We'll start to see this over the next 3 to 6 months, starting this weekend, moving into out of June, into July, through the summer. We've obviously got 2 big announcements coming up. Boris is doing an announcement this week. Rishi's going to do his week commencing the 6th of July, and they'll be releasing a stimulus package. I'm going to share with you what that's going to involve. At the headline, why is the biggest recession, the worst economic time in 300 years, an entrepreneur's playground? The reality is, during a recession, competition levels drop, margins increase, but the reason for this is there's low levels of confidence and there's high levels of scarring and economic impact. What's going to happen is we're going to go through these phases. So when the economy is booming, so when it's, let's start with a mature market. So a mature market is where GDP is high, unemployment's low, salaries are stable, and there's a lot of security in what's going on in an economy. What happens there is, if you think about the economy as a balloon, The economy is full of air, there's lots of air in the balloon, everyone's flying, and the government can then derive taxes. They can derive taxes, they can fund spending, they're looking towards growth, increasing productivity, these longer term economic strategies. What happens when you're in that mature period though is that then we get an economic shock. So if you imagine like phase 4 really is a mature market. Mature market, there's an economic shock, which might be like the global financial crisis and finance collapses, or coronavirus and we go into lockdown. There's an economic shock which for whatever reason shocks the economic system. GDP, activity, spending, growth really falls down and we go into what's called a recession. So a recession, it's not really driven by productivity because that's like more of a long-term strategy. It's driven by spending and growth. So recession falls down, which means GDP slows down, growth slows down, there's less economic activity, and what happens is things go down rather than up. So employment levels go down, salaries go down, activity levels go down, and GDP goes down. Unemployment levels go up, universal credit goes up. All of these issues put us into a recession where we're going down or going backwards. Recession is 3 consecutive periods of decline in GDP, basically. Gross domestic product or growth. We go into a period of recession, which means we're slowing down or going backwards, or we can be in a depression where we stay there for a sustained period of time. What happens then is we need to figure out how do we get the air back in the balloon so the government can make their taxes, they can fund the public sector, they can invest in productivity. In a recession, what happens is the government have to step in because the air's coming out of the balloon, GDP's slowing down, people are losing their jobs, activity levels are dropping. We go into this recession period where we are now, where there's low activity, increasing unemployment, and the government have to step in with stimulus. So the government are like, right, now it's their turn to step in, put stimulus into the economy to drive 2 main factors. The first is growth. So they need the economy to grow, new jobs to be created, businesses to expand. And the second is spending. They need people to spend money in shops. They need people to spend money in businesses. The government needs to spend to invest in infrastructure, create jobs, try and get things going again. This is what happens during a recessionary period. The stimulus comes in and stimulates the economy. But then what happens there is entrepreneurs have to step in. The government rely on entrepreneurs to create new businesses, create new jobs, adapt to a changing workplace. This is literally our playground because not only are the government giving a stimulus, so they're saying, right, we'll give you initiatives to recruit people. We'll probably see reduced NI. We'll see maybe NI holidays, grants for recruiting people. We'll see stimulus like that. We'll see reduced VAT. We'll see cheap finance. The government will stimulate the recession to get the entrepreneurs going, to rally the troops, to get us to blow the air back in the balloon. But also, they'll get out of our way. They're not going to when the economy is on its knees, you don't start picking at a carcass. Like, the economy's in a bad position. The government come over, give it a shot of stimulus, and the entrepreneurs need to jump in, use the cheap finance, use the initiatives to grow, recruit people, expand, buy other businesses. Gets all this going, and then we get into the gold rush. And this is the entrepreneur's playground, the gold rush period where success and failure are very predictable. It's a very clear curve, which the government will support, the government will back, and entrepreneurs need to ride as aggressively as they can to get the economy going. And then we get into a boom stage, either a boom or a bubble, where there's loads of activity, spending's probably too high, interest rates creep up, or inflation creeps up, so they pull the interest rate lever to slow spending, they slow things down, and then we move out of the boom and the bubble into the mature market. Success and failure are very predictable. The biggest thing for you to understand now, and this is like I was saying to the property entrepreneurs this morning, the speed of implementation. You've got to be quick. Like we were one of the in the top 1% of first 1% of companies to raise Sybil's funding. We then went out and used BBLS, got that in. There's loads of initiatives, grants, all of these things that are going to come in. But you've got to understand how to use it. You've got to be quick, and you've got to be highly strategic. Success and failure are very predictable, and over the coming weeks, I'm going to share with you how to actually capitalise on this. I've already drawn out, and you'll find it in this group somewhere. And I published it in YPN magazine next month. If you read July's YPN magazine, I published it in there in a report. Success and failure are very predictable. All you need to do is master the market, catch a wave, find a niche, and then just ride the curve. into 2021, it's going to be the biggest gold rush that we've ever seen. I've built businesses in recessions, I've built businesses in boom times. Without a doubt, it's far quicker, it's far easier, there's less competition, there are higher margins in a recession. Whilst everybody else runs for the hills, like get ready to ride the wave and get involved with the gold rush. It's going to be huge. Guys, I'm just going to give you a little insight there. I'm going to keep you well posted. Questions, comments, challenging some of my assumptions, hit me in the comments. And yeah, let's get ready for the gold rush. I'm going to take you through it. Catch you later on today.